Oh! Ooh. Ugh. Ugh. Sorry about that. I'm a bit new to apparating. For those of you who aren't Harry Potter savvy, that means to magically teleport. Anyway, I thought it would be an appropriate entrance, as last night I was lucky enough to see Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. You may have also noticed that I'm now in a new location. That's because I'm home for Thanksgiving break. Cha! Sorry about the lighting, by the way. It's nighttime as I'm recording this. But I digress. On to the review. Now, this is the 7th film in the Harry Potter series, based on the 7th book of the same name, and part 1 of the finale. Yes, that's right. They decided to split the book into 2 parts for the sake of the story, because there was just so much detail to it, so many important events, and they all tie together so much that if they had ever tried to adapt the whole thing into just one film, it just would have been a total mess. Now, if you're a longtime series fan like I am, you're already going to know the story, because you've either read the book or you followed the films up to this point. If you're a newcomer to the series, however, the basic plot of it revolves around Harry, Ron, and Hermione on their journey, their mission to find and destroy Horcruxes, or pieces of one's soul, that are encased in certain objects, special items. And whose soul is this, you ask? Well, Lord Voldemort. I meant, you know who. Well, that's better. But enough of my antics for now. It's time for the pros and the cons. Pros. My first pro would probably be something that a lot of longtime fans will be concerned about, and that would be the accuracy of this film to the book. Well, don't you worry. This happens to be an incredibly faithful adaptation of the novel. Granted, they weren't adapting the whole book, of course, but still, they managed to cover pretty much every major plot point, even some of the smaller ones. I mean, they just packed so much into it. They brought back so many characters, and even characters who hadn't previously appeared in the films, well, they get their quick introductions, and their significance is made clear pretty much within a minute of them being introduced. They work fast, but they do it very effectively. It's almost as if it's like magic. My second pro would have to be the performances. Virtually every actor plays their role to a T, regardless of screen time and or significance. This is especially true for the 3 leads, those being Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Harry, Rupert Grint, who plays Ron, and Emma Watson, who plays Hermione. These 3 have just come such a long way since they were kids, since the franchise started. With every film, they've grown into their characters just a little bit more. This film is no different, as they really experiment with the relationships of these 3, especially given their current situation. I mean, they're out on their own, traveling. They travel a lot in this movie, for most of the movie, in fact. And it's all centering on these 3. Just imagine the 3 of them on their own with a deadly mission ahead of them. In that respect, it should really be noted that this film is different from all of the others, in that they're never at Hogwarts in this one. Hogwarts doesn't appear in this film at all. Granted, they do go to several other significant places, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. Now, my third pro would definitely have to be something that I don't think anybody could honestly find fault with: the effects. Ooh. They are just astonishing. I cannot stress enough how great these are. I mean, they've always been great in this series, but these are just so top-notch. Even the ones you know would have to be done with computers, they just look so real. They're so lifelike. And the characters interact and mesh with them just perfectly. Most especially during the action sequences, and those are intense. Avada Kedavra! That's the killing curse, by the way. I don't know what else I can say about the effects without giving things away, but I just have to say, they really help to enhance the experience without taking away from it. That's what special effects are supposed to do anyway, right? My last pro is an interesting one. One a lot of people may not be expecting, and that's the fact that they actually added a few new scenes for this one which were not in the book. Now, this may cause some to ask, wait, why are they adding new scenes? I mean, wasn't the point of splitting this book into two films so that they could have as many scenes from the book as possible and do the story true justice? Well, don't worry, there are only a few of these scenes and they're not long. They don't overstay their welcome. And actually, they help to enhance the film in that they add a certain range of emotion to it. And in some ways, they do describe some things that were talked about in the book but weren't actually shown. In one case, there's a scene that actually helps to lighten things up after a very dramatic moment, and I feel that this helps to add a good balance between things. It's not just constant drama, because that can kind of wear down on the audience a bit. One character in particular, who hasn't appeared in a while, does actually get a little more time in this film than they did in the book, but I'm not going to let you know who. Ooh, who could it be? Oh, too late. I'm putting my thought in the pensieve. Well, I think that does it for the pros, so before we move on to the cons, let's lighten things up a bit. 1, 2, 3. Lumos! That's better now, isn't it? Much easier to see. I've even made a wardrobe change. Con time! Now, I think my first con would be the cliffhanger ending. Now, I was expecting this because this is the first part of one whole. So, needless to say, it doesn't really have closure in this one. It basically just cuts off right in the middle of the story after a very emotional and pretty intense scene. Even though I don't consider this to be a total con, it may leave a lot to be desired for some because, they really want to know how the story is going to end. Of course, avid fans like myself will know how it ends because we've all read the books, but come on, we have to wait until next July to see the conclusion. And it's a pretty long time to wait. I wish I could just cast a spell and have it be here right now. Accio, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. No such luck. Now, my second flaw would concern anyone who hasn't read the books. You absolutely must have to have seen all of the previous films in order to understand everything in this. Without them, on some parts, you will be lost. Of course, most fans of the series like myself will have read the books and or seen all of the previous films. And, why would you go to see this one if you hadn't seen any of the previous films? I mean, it is the 7th installment of the franchise. Although the film does utilize a few flashbacks in order to explain certain things, you really should see all of the previous films before that. And hey, if you want to see this one, why wouldn't you see all the previous ones? My third and final con, I suppose, would be that more in the middle of the film, like the second act, there are some slow parts. By comparison, the first and third acts have a lot going on. They're very quick paced, they have a lot of action, real exciting. In the second act, it involves a lot of traveling for the trio, although there are definitely some exciting scenes of action during this act which are definitely worth waiting through the slower parts to see. Of course, the fact that these scenes are slower doesn't necessarily mean that they're boring. On the contrary, they can be very emotional at times. In one scene in particular, Harry and Ron get into quite a quarrel of words. Some feelings are hurt, and, well, I'm just going to let you see it for yourself. So these scenes help to increase the emotional impact of the film, and I don't feel they detract from the story at all. After all, several of these scenes were crucial in the book. You gotta love accuracy, at least if you're a fan of the books. So with that, I must say that as a fan, this was an incredibly satisfying installment of the series, especially by comparison to the book. It's one of the most accurate in a while. It was a very smart decision splitting the book into two parts. And given how good I found this film to be, I just cannot wait until part 2. I have a feeling it's just going to be so monumentally epic, especially since it has the Battle of Hogwarts in it. Now keep in mind, when you're bringing young children, this film is rated PG-13, and it clocks in at a runtime of 2 hours, 26 minutes. So remember folks, use the bathroom before you enter the theater. As for my rating, what with this film's incredible accuracy towards the book, very solid performances, dazzling special effects, and the new scenes which are quite emotional, I can sincerely say that I wouldn't give this thing any less than a 9 out of 10. It's that good, at least in my opinion. And for my last moment of randomness, this is my dog's butt. Say hi, Spuddy. I'll see you all later.